Hey folks, how you doing today? I am excited to talk to you about something I've been working on with goHUNT for over a year. When they told me they were coming out with maps, I'm like, ooh, you want to see my wish list? And they're like, you darn right we do. So I gave them a really long wish list. And for the last year, we've been working on this thing called a terrain analysis tool. I just call it the terrain tool. So they've been trying to come up with this idea of how do we have everything in one place. And I'm sitting here looking at my terrain tool on my maps. And so they want to have all their research stuff along with all these e-scouting tools I've been asking them for. And this is one of the steps that direction. And they want to bring it all here in one spot. And when I show you how this works, I think you're gonna say, oh wow, that is powerful. As much as I gave them my ideas on this, that I wanted it for e-scouting for elk. And when I walk through how it works, you'll see why I see it through this lens of someone who's e-scouting for elk. Particularly the fact that I do mostly post-rut hunts and late season hunts, which are rifle hunts. When you use it, or you look at it, I would bet you're going to come up with a whole bunch of other applications for it that I would have never thought of. And the reason I say that is about a month ago when Corey Jacobson and I got the first under the hood look at this stuff, I was all excited and talking about elk and this and that. And Corey's like, oh yeah, but you should see how I'm going to use it for shed antler hunting. Well, those of you who know me, I hang shed antlers in a tree. I don't collect them like Corey or like a lot of you. And Corey's just talking about all this stuff about what degree of slopes and what direction slopes usually face when elk are there in April or whenever it is they're dropping their antlers. I'm like, whoa, I would have never even thought about that. And then I get to talking to Brady Miller about how he uses this tool now for his e-scouting for mule deer. And I'll be honest, I'm not any type of mule deer hunter of much account. So listening to Brady talk about how he's using it, I'm like, all right, this is just a universal tool that I want to show you about how I use it. So for me, e-scouting is about eliminating where the elk aren't and focusing where they are. And that's the same when I'm out in the field. I want to spend my time where the elk are, or at least where they're likely to be, not where they aren't. So what I need are tools and mapping systems that allow me to do that. How do I get rid of so much of this terrain where they likely aren't? Well, there's a few ways you can do that. And in this terrain tool, you'll see that there are three primary pieces built into it. There's an elevation band, there's a slope, in other words, the grade of the slope, and then there's the slope orientation, north, south, southwest, northeast, whatever. And I'll explain to you why that was so, or is so important to me when I do e-scouting for elk. So we take elevation bands, right? If you are hunting migratory elk, which is going to be all the states in the northern Rockies, high alpine areas of Colorado, maybe even the high alpine areas of northern New Mexico, you're dealing with migratory elk. Now you get in some of the more mild stuff like maybe Arizona, parts of Utah, maybe they're non-migratory and they're going to disperse horizontally. But for a large portion of the places that I hunt them, they disperse vertically, which means elevation bands define transition ranges. So just about every place I hunt elk where they are migratory, I can go and do research, or with some quick calls to biologists or research of some studies online, I know where the top of that transition range is. In other words, the summer range is the highest, then the transition range, and then the winter range. So I can usually tell right away, without a lot of work, or not too much research, what is my transition range where somewhere in the post-rut and late season period, the bull elk are going to be between this number and this number in elevation. And yeah, they migrate however many miles wherever. And weather will help, the weather conditions, the cold, the snow, or maybe abnormally warm will let me determine if they're going to be in the upper part of that transition range or are they going to be in the lower part because the weather's been really bad. Well, with this terrain tool, very first thing that I do is I go in here and I know this place that I'm going to be hunting. The lower end of the transition range, just above the winter range, is 7,000 feet, and the higher end is 8,600 feet. So just by putting that in there, I have eliminated all this unproductive area where there still might be some elk, but the likelihood is way less. So now I get the chance to focus more of my effort, more of my e-scouting, and in turn, more of my hunting in the places where they're most likely to be. And then I read all the studies about elk. I know that elk don't like to bed on a slope that's greater than 20 degrees. In fact, they prefer less than 20 degrees. So in this tool, there are slope degrees, or whatever you want to call them, gradients, of 0 to 5, 5 to 15, 15 to 25. Well, I know that most elk are going to bed on a slope that's somewhere between 0 and 15 degrees, maybe some up in the, 15, 18, 20 degree, maybe even above 20 degrees, but that's not their preference. So again, I'm trying to be the most efficient I can be in my e-scouting. And then the last thing is the slope aspect. In other words, does the slope face straight south? Yeah, in the room I'm sitting, that's north. Does it face north? Does it face west? Does it face east, southeast, whatever? And that comes into play in a lot of different scenarios for me as I glass. So in the morning when the sun starts coming up in the southeast, those slopes over here on my northwest are going to get lit up first. Well, those are the places I know the elk are going to disappear first in the morning. So those are the places I'm looking at right away. And as the sun slowly makes its arc over here in the south, I know these slopes over here that are northeast of me, facing that way. I guess they're northwest of me, possibly facing southeast, or they're northeast of me, possibly facing west or southwest. I know those are going to stay shaded longer. So the likelihood is the elk will stay out there a little bit later in the morning. Knowing which direction these slopes go helps me identify where my glassing places should be in the morning, where they should be in the afternoon. And then the reverse happens in the afternoon, right? The sun's starting to drop over here to my southwest. Well, I know that those slopes over here that are to my northwest and face southeast, they're going to be shaded earlier in the afternoon. So where is the slope the elk are most likely to come out in earliest in the day? These ones up here. These slopes over here to my northeast that might face southwest, these slopes are going to stay lit up the longest, so that's probably the last place elk are going to come out in the afternoon. So I can use it for that. So I think when you look at this, you'll understand how powerful this is as an e-scouting tool. It's going to help you identify a lot of places where the elk aren't. Or in Corey's case, identify places where the elk drop their antlers. Or in Brady's case, a lot of places where the mule deer aren't. And focus on the places where they are. And one of the things you'll see is when you do this, you put your criteria in there. And here I'm just going to do one where I've got my transition range, I know is low end 7,000, high end 8,600. I'm going to say, all right, I'm looking for slopes that are 5 degree to 15 degree. There's a lot of country like that. And I want to see slopes that are more of a west, southwest, or northwest orientation. Well, when I do that, man, I still come up with hundreds of possibilities. I come up with more places than I can probably hunt in a week. But at least I'm not going to be out there wandering around looking at places where the likelihood of an elk is really slim. I still got to go out and do the work. I still got to figure out, how to approach these places, which ones actually do hold elk, which ones don't hold elk, or mule deer, or antlers, or whatever you will use it for. But I think you'll see by just playing around with this tool a little bit, how much more efficient you will be in your e-scouting, which will hopefully make you more effective with your limited time when you're out in the field. So there you have it, terrain tool from goHUNT. If you want it, well, if you're a subscriber, you already have it as part of your maps. It's just part of the value equation that they keep adding more value, more value. And if you want to get it, go sign up for the goHUNT Insider. Use promo code Randy and they'll give you $50 in their gear shop. So lots more good stuff coming this year from goHUNT and their maps. If I seem excited, it's because this is a project I've been working on for quite a while. I've been down to Vegas, I don't know how many times, down to their headquarters, meeting with engineers and mad scientists, GIS people. And there's a lot more coming. Things that are going to make your e-scouting easier, more efficient, and make your hunting more effective. Good luck.